When we ended things last time, the Vault Dweller had worked with Sergeant Radcliffe of the Old Guard to gain access to a turret hacking tool from Robco. With access to the vault provided by the Motherlode drill, a solution to the laser grids, and now the turrets of the Hallway of Death countered, it was finally time to start the heist on the gold reserve within Vault 79. I'm the Irresolute Cartographer, and this is part 7 of the story of the Settlers of Foundation. When the Vault Dweller returned to Foundation, Page expressed his high regard for them, as he was impressed that they had managed to finally get the Old Guard to join directly with the Settlers rather than simply shadow them. With the crew and equipment ready to go, Page told the Vault Dweller the team was ready whenever they were comfortable launching the assault on the vault. As their own affairs were in order, the Vault Dweller was ready to go, and thus they headed for the basement of Freddy Fear's House of Scares in the Northern Mire, from which the vault raid would proceed. Upon arrival, it was clear that something was amiss. Penelope Hornwright was missing. She was supposed to be guiding the Motherlode. Without her, there could be no heist. Upon conferring with Page again, it was clear that no one knew where she was. As if on cue, a radio broadcast came in from Dr. Hornwright. She had been kidnapped by members of the Raiders of the Crater. Though they arrived in the area around the same time as the Settlers of Foundation, the trip to Appalachia had been a homecoming for the Raiders. From 2078 to around 2096, the core of this group had been known as the Diehards, one of the 5 Raider gangs of the Savage Divide. A splinter of the main gang, David Thorpe's Cutthroats, the Diehards were the least threatening of the Raider groups of post-war Appalachia. While all of the gangs survived by robbing passing caravans and raiding settlements, the Diehards tried to do this without engaging in violence. This didn't work out in most cases, and violence was the usual outcome for their attempted robberies. When the post-war society crumbled in the face of the oncoming Scorched Plague, Scorched and Scorched Beasts, a large chunk of the Diehards splintered off and fled Appalachia. Led by Meg, these raiders wandered the wastes, looting and recruiting for around 7 years. When they heard the rumors of treasure, they had returned to Appalachia and set themselves up in the crashed space station at the northern end of the Toxic Valley. They named their settlement Crater and began working to reclaim their home. When the Vault Dweller and the Overseer bottled the Scorched Plague inoculation, they had brought the medicine to both the Settlers of Foundation and the Raiders of the Crater. Now members of that faction were holding Dr. Hornwright captive. Regardless of however it was that they had caught wind of the Settlers' plans for the Vault, they weren't going to let them move ahead unimpeded. They had kidnapped Penelope within the Hornwright Industrial Headquarters in Charleston, and were only willing to speak with the Vault Dweller, and only if they came alone. The Vault Dweller departed for Charleston, and upon their arrival at the HQ, they descended into the Motherlode testing area known as the Cave. Upon entering the area, the Vault Dweller was greeted by the head of this group of Crater Raiders, Hijack. Hijack had an ultimatum. Either the treasure in the vault was theirs, or it was no one's. The Settlers would not be allowed to keep it. The Vault Dweller considered the problem and then offered a compromise. Hijack would get a share of the vault loot to take back to Crater. He would be lauded for having scored a share of the gold for his people despite having done none of the work to secure it. In exchange for this promised treasure, Hijack would release Penelope so that she could complete her part of the heist. Unfortunately, the Raiders hadn't waited patiently for the Vault Dweller, and they had in fact managed to damage the Motherlode during the kidnapping. Some of this damage was superficial, the damage to the intelligence module was not. Luckily, Penelope and the Vault Dweller hatched a plan to replace it. They would train a new intelligence module by walking it through the process of drilling in a simulated drilling experience. Over the course of a few minutes, they pushed through the training program, hitting, pushing, and even talking the fake rock walls down. When the course was complete, the module was ready for its new task. The Vault Dweller installed it on the Motherlode, and it tunneled off to the pre-planned meeting spot at Freddy Fear's House of Scares. With this, Dr. Hornwright and the Vault Dweller departed the cave as well. Alright, that should do it for this episode. This episode was a bit short, but we'll be making up for that next time because when we come back for episode 8, we'll finally begin the heist of Vault 79. A special thank you to my patrons and channel members, and a thank you to those of you who came by to watch this video. This has been the Irresolute Cartographer. I'll see you again next time.